Hello, everyone, and welcome to Aaron Shack Politics. It's February 21st. 20, I can't even do it. It's been so long. February 21st, 2025. And I am super excited because we have an exciting new announcement here. You might have seen it on the YouTube community feed, but I have made a Substack because there are a lot of issues with various platforms on some of the news that I report when I cover Gaza and the West Bank, anything Palestine related. A lot of that stuff gets hit by censorship and stuff like that. So if you want to be able to keep up with every video I publish on the channel, I've actually made sure to include every single video that we've published as a post. And I've also dated them, so the dates of when I've published said videos. And of course, the latest video here, the Sabra one, which, let me kind of flex a lot of my Marvel Comics knowledge on you guys. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope you found it helpful and educational, and I hope you see how well boycotts can actually work. But yeah, I want to make this a place where, we can all interact, whereas, the YouTube comments are really great, and I can interact back and forth with people. I think the Substack could be even better in some ways because there's a little notes section where I could let you know, like, hey, I'm going live on YouTube, I'm going live on TikTok, or what have you. Or I can share some articles here of stuff like that maybe, just because the channel is really just me at this point, it's like I can only cover so much. So, like, if I want to, share articles from other sources and keep you up to date on issues that, maybe I will cover and add my unique perspective, or maybe I just won't be able to get to it because there's honestly so much news, and I have to, like, really narrow down what I want to cover to keep the shows from being irrationally long. You can also join the subscriber chat, which we do have, like, a paid subscriber thing, and you can, be in here and sort of share articles, if there's stuff you want me to cover or talk about, or, if we just want to do some back and forth feedback and stuff. And then, of course, there's, the archive of everything here, which I think this is kind of how you view the site on mobile. But on like a desktop, yeah, you get to see this, like, really cool newspaper format, which I think is going to work really well. The more, the more stuff I start posting, the more people interact with that stuff. So, yeah, aaronshackpolitics.substack.com. You can find it there. And I'd really appreciate you guys heading over there, sharing it with your friends. I really want to, I want to be able to post articles and stuff, but in case you guys didn't know, I did have carpal tunnel surgery on my right hand here. So that's why the content funnel of how much I've been able to work on and edit and stuff like that has been a little slow. I haven't been able to, like, edit and script and type and all these various things. I haven't been able to use my right hand while the incision area heals, and I'm going to have to also get it done the left hand if that is indeed the issue I've been having with my hands, which was pain and numbness from, being a guitarist, a video gamer, typing, just all writing, all sorts of things that I do throughout my life. So, hopefully this gets me, back in action. But yeah, the recovery time is pretty long. We're coming at here in about a week or so. I'm gonna have a follow up on the right hand, and we're gonna assess that, whether that went well or not, and then what to do about scheduling surgery for the left hand, and then the 5 or 6 plus weeks of recovery, for that. So, my apologies if you're if you're really excited to see me covering all sorts of stuff, and I'm putting stuff out as fast as I can, and I'm making sure that there's, like, short form content dropping every day to keep the channel alive and keep you all informed. But at the same time, I'm just only capable of so much, and I'm honestly doing as much as I can. So I appreciate your support. I appreciate your kindness. I appreciate all the kind comments that we got on the channel this week. It really helps persevere. Helps me persevere in the face of so many struggles here. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and let's get into it. So, we need better leadership than the Democratic Party is showing right now. And that's what I'm saying in my latest post on Blue Sky, which if you haven't, head over to Blue Sky and follow me over there, AaronShackPolitics.bsky.social. If you want to find me on there. This post is about Hakeem Jeffries and his nickname for Donald Trump. Let's full screen it because this is ridiculous.
Captain Chaos and extreme MAGA Republicans spent last year promising to lower the high cost of living and running away from Project 2025 as if it didn't exist.
Okay,
Captain
man.
Chaos
Yeah.
and extreme MAGA Republicans.
Yeah, like I understand the merit of the phrase he's saying, but like Trump gives people nicknames too, like Lion Ted and all this stuff. But this doesn't help. You know, you coming up with stupid little comic book nicknames. Democrats, especially Jeffries, are not doing anything. You know, like the courts are the ones that are going to resolve a lot of the issues of what's going on with Donald Trump and some of these executive orders. So, you know, while Chuck Schumer is like, oh, well, we're not the party in power, so we just have to abide with the law. You know, it's like, yeah, but you can like resist. You can speak up. And so, you know, we've been hearing people, Jasmine Crockett, AOC, Bernie Sanders, you know, people that are really well-spoken people out there, you know, giving speeches, protesting, you know, being on social media, you know, doing things in Congress as well, you know, trying to pass bills, trying to just bring things to a vote, you know, just stuff like that, just to have things on the record and to keep people informed and keep people energized. And meanwhile, like everyone else in the party is just kind of like, well, you didn't want us. And it's like, well, you didn't offer a better solution. And so people bought into what Trump was selling. And it's unfortunate and it's a real problem. And it puts us in quite a pickle here. But the Democratic Party, you got to be doing better than this, man. I mean, it's such easy, like, low-hanging fruit here. All right, so aside from that, I want to pull up this here. Second here. So this is world leaders reacting to Trump's Gaza Strip takeover plan. This is from Brute America. This is Lula, the Brazilian president. It makes no sense. Where would Palestinians live? There's something incomprehensible to any human being. Palestinians are the ones who need to take care of Gaza. Australia's prime minister. Australia's position is the same as it was this morning, as it was last year. The Australian government supports on a bipartisan basis a two-state solution. Okay. Turkish foreign minister. Trump's statement on Gaza is unacceptable. Expelling the Palestinians from Gaza is a matter that neither we nor the countries of the region can accept. There is not even a question of discussing it. That's wild. I love it. Then you have British foreign minister. We've always been clear in our belief that we must see two states. We must see Palestinians live and prosper in their homelands in Gaza and the West Bank. That's interesting because he's sort of implying that they need to be kept separate in their tiny little shreds of a land, and that this doesn't speak to settlements or any sort of reparations or rights to get the land that was taken from them. French Ministry of Foreign Affairs says France reiterates its opposition to any forced relocation of the Palestinian population of Gaza, which would constitute a serious violation of international law, an infringement on the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinians, but also a major obstacle to the two-state solution and a major destabilizing factor for our close partners such as Egypt and Jordan, as well as the entire region. Palestinian president here, Mahmoud Abbas, says Palestinian leadership, of course, firmly reject the calls to take over the Gaza Strip and to displace the Palestinians from their homeland. In response to the American calls for the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza, we will not allow our people's rights to be violated. China, of all places, Chinese Foreign Ministry says we oppose the forced transfer of the people of Gaza and hope all parties will take ceasefire and post-conflict governance as an opportunity to bring the Palestinian issue back to a political settlement based on the two-state solution. And then, of course, you have the Saudi Arabia Foreign Ministry says that they also reiterate its previously announced unequivocal rejection of any infringement on the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, whether through Israeli settlement policies, annexation of Palestinian lands, or attempts to displace the Palestinian people from their land. And then Executive Director of Amnesty International USA, Paul O'Brien, says removing all Palestinians from Gaza is tantamount to destroying them as a people. Gaza is their home. Gaza's death and destruction is a result of the government of Israel killing civilians by the thousands, often with U.S. bombs. Then you have Dmitry Peskov, Russian press secretary. Russia believes a settlement in the Middle East is only possible on the basis of a two-state solution. So, I mean, it's pretty safe to say that most of the civilized world agrees with Palestine on this issue, that there has to be some sort of solution that honors them and their land and their right to live on their land. No one's siding with the Donald Trump Riviera policy. All right, so beyond that, this is interesting. This is coming from Zeteo. So, in an exclusive story here from Zeteo, nearly 2 in 3 American voters oppose Trump's Gaza takeover plan. And we can see here on this chart, voters oppose the U.S. taking ownership of the Panama Canal, Greenland, Canada, and Gaza. So, of course, you know, the Panama Canal, not very popular. Greenland, even more opposition. Canada, even more opposition. And then Gaza, only 1% less opposition than Canada. I don't know about the Canada thing. That's pretty wild. So, voters opposing Trump's proposal to take over and own Gaza and forcibly resettle its residents. So, all likely voters, 47%. Democrats, obviously, 78% opposition. Independents and third parties are about 49% strong opposition. And then, of course, Republicans at a 16% opposition, which, you know, it seems like they're a little more divided between, you know, how much they support it, whether it's like strong or medium or light. And then, of course, there's voters opposing U.S. sending troops to the Middle East to take ownership of Gaza. So 50% of all likely voters oppose that, 74% Democrats, 55% independents, and Republicans, 24% strongly oppose. It's pretty wild, and I think it really speaks to how unpopular this issue is and how Trump didn't really read the room. He was basically like, you know, just kind of spitballing of like what he wants to do and what Israel wants to do, and not really about what Palestinians want or what the rest of the world wants or what major goals have been in the Middle East over 100 years of negotiations between U.S. presidents and, you know, various representation for Palestine and Israel over the decades. So, definitely some powerful imagery there that we can look at to sort of, you know, having some data here to actually look at. Okay. This next one, pull it up right here. This is what Gaza looked like before the U.S. funded Israeli attacks. So, you know, Trump says it's a demolition site, and he wants to like rebuild it better than ever into some sort of.
But the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site.
Who made it a demolition site, and who funded it? Who sent the weapons? So, like, why does it need to be a Riviera when it was already beachfront property? It was already gorgeous. Gaza was my favorite place before the war. Gaza was filled with beautiful places like the beach shore. Look at that, man. Like, come on. The cafes and the port, it was everyone's favorite place.
كورنيش غزة المكان اللي كان المفضل للجميع. الشوارع.
Now it's all just rubble. The streets at night were very beautiful.
المباني جميلة.
Buildings were beautiful. The warm homes were beautiful. Yep, U.S.-made bombs created those ruins, absolutely. Left Gaza in dire need of restoration that Trump is pledging. Yeah, which is unpopular. We're staying steadfast. Whoever wants to rebuild should not kick us out under the pretext of rebuilding. Trump helped Israel in the first place in this destruction we see here. Spent at least $17.9 billion on military aid to Israel since October 2023. Trump proposed $1 billion in arms for Israel soon after taking office. So there you go. More. I want to make it clear to Trump and global leaders, Palestinian people are rooted in their land. Let's freaking go. We are as firm as the roots of olive trees. We will never give up our land in Gaza. The old Gaza was very beautiful. It was filled with life before the war. Beautiful life. Residents of Gaza used to love the life that we lost during the war. Shocked us after the war ended. Gaza was a piece of heaven on earth. An Nakba survivor says he was displaced when Israel was created in 1948. Will not be expelled from his land again. Trump wants to displace me, send me abroad, and bring in people instead of me? You have the skyscrapers. It is for you, not for me. I accept living in a tent under the rubble. I was born here and I will die here. I will not leave. There you go. Yeah, Palestinians are pretty adamant they'll stay. I mean, they're living in tents and in the ruins. There you go. Living in the rubble. Spread a sheet and sit on it while touching the rubble of my house. That's all I want, man. Ethnic cleansing, breaking international law, and the deportation would be illegal. Trump can dream on if he thinks to displace or expel us. Neither he nor anyone above him can do so. Why would we leave, even if we die? We will not be displaced. See, they're not going to go willingly, and they're not going to let anyone take them from their land. Powerful message. Now, you might have seen Ken O'Keefe. He is a former U.S. Marine. He posts a lot on Twitter about, all sorts of oh, hang on. There we go. My stuff is breaking on me here. So, yeah, you might know Ken O'Keefe, former U.S. Marine. Who posts a lot on Twitter about human rights and Palestine and stuff like that. Here he is in an interview, and I want us to all listen to what he's saying here.
The right of Israel to exist.
You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like the African National Congress and Nelson Mandela refusing to accept apartheid and recognize apartheid. I say that Israel, if it wants to be a genuine partner in any kind of peace, needs to destroy its whole ideology of Zionism. Zionism that makes other people goyim, who do not deserve to be in the Holy Land. That's the real problem. If Israel will embrace every people, including Palestinians, equally, human rights respected across the board, then I would challenge Hamas to change its charter and say we will acknowledge Israel. But until that time, I see no difference between Nelson Mandela and Hamas in refusing to accept apartheid or the Zionist Israeli state. I support the right of self-defense without any doubt. I would be involved myself in violent resistance if I were a citizen of Palestine. And if I were a citizen of the United States and someone from halfway around the world came into my country and started stealing my land and killing my family, guess what? I would defend my country as well. So I absolutely 100% defend the right of self-defense, and I will never shy away from that. I will not join the long list of embarrassments.
I'd love to hear whatever he says next after that. But I think it's really powerful what he has to say in this clip, is that they are allowed to resist because of what is happening to them. And he also speaks to the idea that Israel is an ethno-state. It only allows people that are like them, that are of their religion, Zionism, not just Judaism, but Zionism, and that people that think like them, and they are them, and you want to come and sell on this land, even if you're American. And then you get to take more land from Palestinians. I mean, he states it very plainly and clearly. I mean, if this were you, if the shoe were on the other foot and someone was trying to come into your house and your land that you pay taxes on and, the property that you own and start killing, you and your family and saying that your land belongs to them now because, some old book says that they have a right to this land, that their God deems them as the chosen people and that your land is no more. Yeah, you're damn right you're going to stand up and fight him. So, as any rational person would. So, next, I wanted to pull this up. This is the Hague Group, and you can actually head over to their website, which is thehagegroup.org. And we actually talked about them in a previous video where I sort of explained that, all of these various countries, Belize, Bolivia, Colombia, Cuba, Honduras, Malaysia, Namibia, Senegal, South Africa, in The Hague, Netherlands, they all decide to come together and form the Hague Group. And you can sort of read through here that, they want to uphold what the United Nations should be doing and what, America and a few other countries are sort of blocking any sort of resolutions that would give Palestinians any sort of rights or an advantage or any sort of negotiations. United States has always voted against ceasefires and stuff like that. So you can actually go through here and read what their goals are. And a lot of them are, as I said, they want to prevent transfers of arms. They want ceasefire. They want, these violations of humanitarian law, the territorial jurisdictions, prohibition of genocide, just all these various things that they want to essentially bring about, the end game of this situation, which is like, these war criminals should be in the courts. Like, they should be in The Hague, right? And they should be charged for their crimes and given their fair day in court or whatever. But I mean, there's so much video and photo evidence and of all these war crimes, that's going to be a rather easy case to plead. So this is really good. This is going to be a group to follow. You can even watch it live from The Hague there. They have a link there, but I think this is super great that they've come together and they've made this website here so that you can very easily read through all the details of what they're doing. I think that's super cool. Now, next, I have a video here. This is an Israeli teacher, an anti-war activist. Okay. So, Israeli teacher, anti-war activist, talking about what it's like for Israelis who are seeing what's done to Palestinians and what their reaction is.
Knows clearly that if you dare to show the slightest sentiment towards the people of Gaza, if you criticize killing of innocent civilians, you will be politically persecuted. You will go through public shaming. You will lose your job. And in my case, be put in jail. I wanted as many Israelis to know what is done on their behalf. Most Israelis don't know. Because
propaganda,
the mainstream media
news
doesn't show. They wished me to die. They wished my children to die. They threatened to rape my daughter. Here in Israel, for generations, we kill the Palestinians. We injure the Palestinians. We confiscate their property, their waters. And most Israelis expect them to accept it. And when they don't accept it, they react in violent way. They blame them. They are deprived their basic rights. And for most Israelis, it can go on forever. How can we expect the Palestinians to live under occupation forever?
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, how can you expect them to be occupied forever? And how do you expect them not to resist when, you're an occupying force under apartheid and, you're committing genocide, war crimes? It's just constant war, constant bombardment. You control their access to water, their access to power. You control their borders. You control whether they can go, fishing at the beach, So you're, from every angle, you are bombarding them with weaponry, whether it's shooting people that are fishing on the beach, whether it's bombarding them from the air with U.S. munitions, or rolling through with tanks and destroying the roads and destroying the buildings, and, soldiers with guns and shooting children and women and pregnant women and stuff like that. I mean, how do you expect them not to rebel? So I don't show you this to, like, feel sorry for, like, how bad Israelis have it if they choose to speak up. I think, if there is the right thing to do is never the easy thing to do. I think the right thing to do, you're always going to face opposition in times like this. And so, if it means losing your job, if it means going to jail, like, sometimes it's worth it in that to be on the right side of history and to stand up for what is right, and to not be part of this, this political machine of genocide that's just allowed to continue due to misinformation and a lack of access to news. And that's why what we do here at Aaron Shack Politics is so important. I mean, we are informing people of things that mainstream media just refuses to cover. They just will not cover the Palestinian angle. They won't let anyone speak up for what is happening to Palestinians. They won't show the footage of what is happening to Palestinians. And all they do is they read little quotes from Benjamin Netanyahu and they call it a day. And they think that that is being fair and impartial. Now, next, this is interesting. So, this is from German police who have arrested pro-Palestinian protesters for chanting in Arabic. So now, the country that invented the country that was responsible for the Holocaust wants to now mandate how you can protest. So in the free world, usually you're allowed to speak whatever language you want. But as of February 8th here, it just seems like the cops don't want you speaking Arabic. And yeah, Germany, UK, USA, Spain, all supplying weapons to Israel. Viva Palestina. Like, they're not even saying anything like crazy. Like if I heard words in Arabic that were like, death to the infidels or something like that, like, I would let you guys know, but I mean, it's literally just like Viva Palestina. It's like live, free Palestine, all these chants that don't really mean anything bad. So yeah, they ordered them, no more speaking Arabic, German or English, or we beat you and drag you out. So, I mean, this is the free modern world here, even though it's an official EU language. Yeah, not a good look for the country that formerly housed the Nazi party. Not a good look over there. So, you want to say never again, but then you got your jackbooted boys over here doing this. So, not a good look, folks. Now, this one, a little bit of a longer story here, but it's definitely an important one. So, Palestinians are burning humiliating shirts after their release from Israeli prisons. You can see here in the image. So it's a provocative sweatshirt that was forced on released Palestinian prisoners. I want to read a little bit of this article to you. Let's see. So Israel forced Palestinians to wear shirts with a Star of David logo, and "We will not forget or forgive," written in Arabic, has prompted anger and been slammed as a racist crime. Now, let's remember, what was the last time that someone made people wear, the Star of David on their clothes and gathered them up into camps and jailed and tortured and stuff like that? I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Seems to be something that happened in Germany a while back. So it says on Saturday, 369 Palestinians were released in exchange for 3 captives in Gaza following days of tense negotiations. The Israel Prison Service released photos of a few of the Palestinians dressed in these provocative t-shirts. As the Palestinians were being returned, a number of them wore the shirts inside out to cover the messages. And of course, you can see images here where they are burning the sweatshirt. Footage shot in Gaza by Al Jazeera showed a few Palestinians setting fire to the shirts upon their arrival at the European Gaza hospital in Gaza's Khan Yunis. We condemn the occupation's crime of placing racist slogans on the backs of our heroic prisoners and treating them with cruelty and violence, a blatant violation of humanitarian laws and norms. It added that this, in contrast to the resistance' firm commitment to moral values in treating the occupation's prisoners. So yeah, while they're calling it a racist crime, you can also see here more images of how they are, kneeling with the sweatshirts on and standing there. We will not forget and we will not forgive is what is written on the shirts there. And yeah, it is a violation of international law, and it's humiliating and degrading, and they know why they're doing this. Like Israel knows exactly why they're doing this and why they're forcing people to wear those. So, Mohammed El-Masri, a professor in media studies program at Doha Institute of Graduate Studies, told Al Jazeera that this was another method under which Israel intends to dehumanize Palestinians. Yikes. International Committee for the Red Cross says, while it was facilitating the exchange, called on all parties for more dignified releases. All parties. Despite repeatedly calling for all transfers to be carried out in dignified and private manner, more must be done by all sides, including mediators, to improve future transfers. Yikes. We've been analyzing throughout these past weeks the humiliation of Palestinian prisoners, Abu Eid said. He is a political analyst, and he has said that this is nothing new, but not only damaged the prisoners, but also their families. A total of 24 captives and 985 Palestinians have been released since the ceasefire began in January, according to the ICRC. So you're noticing the disparity there between they're releasing a few Israelis in comparison to like hundreds of Palestinians. And it's because one Israeli life is equal to, say, like 3 to 10 Palestinians. Like, that's the state of the world that we're living in. It just doesn't make sense. It's cruel, it's unusual, and I believe these sweatshirts are just another example of a war crime and a way that they are able to keep pushing these hate crimes in order to stoke the fires even more in hopes that the ceasefire will break, even though Israel has been breaking the ceasefire since day one. So, kind of where we are on that. It just never gets better, It just seems like there is always something worse to be done that I'm seeing. This is an interesting conversation here. Pulitzer Prize winner. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I've
seen when people
Pulitzer Prize winner, author Nathan Thrall describes the absurd conditions that Palestinians are forced to live under. So this is Pulitzer Prize winning author Nathan Thrall describing the absurd conditions that Palestinians
and they stand
are forced to live under. So I want to show you a little bit of this interview here.
When people go in Hebron and they stand on a segregated road, they stand on a road that's what the Israelis call sterile, meaning free of Palestinians. And Palestinians who live on this road, their front doors are welded shut by the Israeli army. They can't even enter or exit their homes through the front door. And when a person sees that, they see a road that they as tourists and Israeli Jewish settlers can walk on, but the Palestinians who live on that road cannot. It's a punch in the gut. And people immediately start to make comparisons to Jim Crow and to apartheid. It's undeniable for them.
And it's absolutely true. Ta-Nehisi Coates said it. I have said it, even in my visit to the West Bank, where there are roads that Palestinians aren't allowed on, checkpoints that they're not allowed to pass. They have separate colored license plates so that their vehicles can be monitored and decide whether they can pass or not. Their cars are unethically searched. Palestinians are also liable to search and seizure. Their phones are searched for messages that are disparaging of Israel, which can also result in jail time. This is not a democracy, folks. That's authoritarianism. That's fascism. That's an apartheid state. This is not just because they gave them the right to vote and their own little land to live on, even though it's occupied and under genocide and is walled in, doesn't mean that they're the good guys in this situation. It's just absolutely insane. And so the people that see, that's the reason I show you this stuff, is the people that see this and you recognize what it looks like. It looks like, to Americans, it looks like how we segregated the African American community. It looks like how we treated them. It looks like how we treated the Native Americans. It's the same story over and over and over. This next one is, we're going to get into a segment here. This is kind of rough, but this is about an Israeli sniper discussing his war crimes with glee, I might add.
Snipers, and because of that we did lots. Me and my team were snipers, and because of that we did lots of snipers ambush from inside Palestinian home. It's a protocol that is called straw widow. But basically it means to take a private Palestinian house and turn it into a military post. The first time that we did it was in the refugee camp in Jenin in 2006. You know, we trained and we were full with adrenaline and energy and everything. And after we broke down the door and raided the house, so I entered into the first room and I grabbed the person in his bed, because that's the tactic, and you need to throw them to another room. But when I lifted from his bed, I realized it was an 11-year-old kid. And I had camouflage on my face, and it was at gunpoint. So he looked at me with his eyes and was so afraid. And I threw him with the rest of the family to another room. But I did that 2 or 3 times a week till I finished my army service. I invaded into hundreds of homes. I dragged, I don't know how many people from their beds.
That's insane. Why are they playing like the Gears of War music right now? That's crazy. That's crazy. But it's just really interesting to listen to these, you know, IDF soldiers admitting their war crimes, like loud and proud, where they're like, yeah, we kicked them out of their homes, turned their homes into sniper nests so they have nothing to come back to, and then we destroy everything. And it's like, and we use that to snipe children. Like, I mean, this stuff just perpetuates over and over and over. And we just have to keep bringing the evidence front and center. Okay, so what's going on in the West Bank, you might ask? Well, Israel has displaced 45,000 Palestinians in the West Bank already. It's the biggest displacement since it occupied the Palestinian land in 1967. The Israeli military has launched massive, deadly operations on several cities across the occupied West Bank, forcing about 45,000 Palestinians from their homes. After almost a month, most remain homeless, and some will have no home to return to. Many of the displaced Palestinians are descendants of refugees who were permanently expelled from their homes during the Nakba in 1948, and they fear it could happen again. In 1967, Israel occupied the West Bank, forcibly displacing around 300,000 Palestinians. Since then, Israel solidified its control over Palestinian land, establishing hundreds of illegal settlements for hundreds of thousands of Israeli settlers. In its current military operation in the West Bank, Israel has invaded multiple areas, demolished homes, killed Palestinians, bulldozed roads, and destroyed water pipes, sanitation systems, and power lines. As you can see, they're bulldozing all the roads. Israeli airstrikes were extremely rare in the occupied West Bank until 2024. Once again, I should let you know there's no Hamas there. Since January, the head of UNRWA said that Israel has already launched at least 38 airstrikes, and this is a civilian population. UNRWA said that several refugee camps in the occupied West Bank have been nearly emptied of their residents. This is Israel's longest military campaign in the territory since the Second Intifada in the early 2000s. Now, Prem Thacker was sharing a little note here from Oxfam. And it says here, according to Oxfam, Israel has destroyed 1,025 miles of water and sanitation networks, leaving less than 7% of pre-war water levels available in Rafah and North Gaza. Israel has partially or entirely destroyed more than 80% of water and sanitation infrastructure in Gaza, including all 6 main wastewater treatment plants. So, big ticket repairs of networks will be urgently needed, but Israel balks in approving supplies. Clemens Laguardat, Oxfam's humanitarian coordinator in Gaza, said, "Now that the bombs have stopped, we have only just begun to grasp the sheer scale of destruction of Gaza's water and sanitation infrastructure. Most vital water and sanitation networks have been entirely lost or paralyzed, creating catastrophic hygiene and health conditions. Our staff and partners have told how people are stopping them in the streets, asking them for water, and the parents are not drinking to save water for their children. It's heartbreaking to hear about children having to walk for miles for a single jerry can of water." Over 700,000 people have returned to find their entire neighborhoods wiped out. For the few whose homes remain standing, water is non-existent due to the destruction of rooftop storage tanks. Now, keep in mind, they did this on purpose, and it is a war crime as well. In Rafah, 90% of water wells and reservoirs have been partially or completely damaged. Water production is less than 5% of its capacity before the conflict. Only 2 out of 35 wells are currently operational. Despite efforts to resume water production since the ceasefire, the destruction of Gaza's water pipelines means that 60% of water is leaking into the ground rather than reaching people. 85% of the sewage pumping stations, 73 of 84, and networks have been destroyed. 85% of small desalination plants, 85 out of 103, have been partially damaged or completely destroyed. 67% of 368 municipal wells have been destroyed. Most of the private small wells cannot function due to lack of fuel or generators. More than 80% of water and sanitation infrastructure across the Gaza Strip have been partially or entirely destroyed, including all 6 major wastewater treatment plants. So, what does this mean? Well, according to the World Health Organization, 88% of environmental samples surveyed across Gaza were found contaminated with polio, signaling imminent risk of an outbreak. Infectious diseases, including acute watery diarrhea and respiratory infections, now the leading causes of death, are also surging, with 46,000 cases, mostly children, being reported each week. Chickenpox and skin diseases such as scabies and impetigo are also spreading rapidly, particularly among displaced nations in the northern Gaza Governorate, where water shortages are most severe. So, with no waste collection or transport for over 15 months, more than 2,000 tons of garbage has been piling up in the streets every day. Toxic combination of open sewage, uncollected waste, contaminated water is creating the perfect storm for a deadly disease outbreak. Now, this next clip, I've been wanting to cover this, and I know I'm kind of late getting to this, but this is Elon's son X telling Trump that you're not the real president and you need to go away. Let's listen to this a few times, because it's just really, it's so entertaining. Elon's son X telling President Donald Trump, you're not the real president, you need to go away. And kids don't just say things like this out of the blue. They repeat what their parents say and what people around them say. So keep that in mind as we listen.
To restore democracy. This may seem like, well,
you're not the president, you need to go away.
To restore democracy.
You can hear it right there at the beginning. And Trump just kind of shrugs.
To restore democracy. Restore democracy. Restore democracy. Restore democracy.
Why isn't this like an R&B hit at this point? You're not the president. You need to go away. Like, come on, man. Like, that would be such a bop if they just like put it to like some R&B beat and just loop that and loop like the kid picking his nose. Or the other statement where he told him, you know, that you need to shut up. It's just really, it's hilarious, man. Bring your kid to work day when your unelected president of America, Elon Musk, and your first lady, Donald Trump. This is crazy, guys. Like, when I say the war crimes just keep adding up and getting worse, look at this. Look at this. So, these are IDF women, Israeli soldiers, hurling grenades at Palestinians over the occupation wall. Like, that's not war. That's not what you do during wartime. Like, this is, you know, and I always point out that the soldiers are, like, really young people, whether it's men or women. Like, that's grenade launchers there. And they're just doing it to record, like, little videos for Instagram to document their war crimes. They don't know, but, I mean, this could result in your prosecution here for war crimes. So this is not even old stuff. This is February 1st, 2025. Like, this is just a few weeks ago. It's not even old stuff. It's just the persistent, unabashed war crimes that they're just not even ashamed to commit. The fact that they're just filming throwing grenades for sport, and they could potentially harm people with that. This is interesting. Coming from a government which is, you know, always talking about how it's wasteful spending here to you know, have all these government organizations and stuff. We are seeing that President Trump has attended the Super Bowl and now NASCAR as he takes the presidential limousine for a spin around the track. Now keep in mind, you have to pay for these vehicles, you have to fuel the cars, you have to have the Secret Service and their wages. This is very expensive. This is millions of dollars just a showboat at the Daytona 500. So if you want to talk about wastes of government spending, and you wonder why other presidents don't typically do things like this or go to various national events, number one, it creates a traffic jam for people trying to get home after the football game or whatever it may be. But it's also incredible wasteful spending when they should be at work rather than, you know, going to sporting events and screwing around and, you know, just trying to be popular in public. So I think maybe the Department of Government Efficiency should get on that, you know, and First Lady Elon Musk should get to work on that. That's quite a bit of wasteful spending there, just millions of dollars. This next one is founder and president of the Palestinian House of Freedom, speaking about ceasefire agreements between Israel.
Has never kept its word. Israel has violated every agreement, every ceasefire agreement that it's ever signed. So there's really no reason to expect or to even make an effort to bring about a ceasefire agreement at all. When it comes to the genocide in Gaza, again, ceasefire is really not the appropriate demand when a genocide is taking place. What needs to happen are severe sanctions, an arms embargo, an immediate intervention to save the Palestinian people and to end and to punish the perpetrators of the genocide. Well, the State of Israel cannot stop the genocide because the State of Israel is one of the most fundamental aspects of Zionism, and the State of Israel is the genocide of the destruction of the Palestinian people. If we want to see the end to the genocide and the destruction of the Palestinian people, then we need to bring about the dismantling of the apartheid State of Israel and to establish a free Palestine on all of historic Palestine in its place. There can't be a realistic expectation that one can negotiate with the perpetrator of the genocide in order to end the genocide. The perpetrator of the genocide is on a mission to destroy Palestine and destroy its people. Well, many Jewish people do see that it's a genocide and reject the state of Israel. I don't think it really matters one way or the other. Israelis, if we're talking about Israeli people who, are the colonizers, when we listen to their discourse, when we see their actions, we see the way they vote, they clearly support the genocide, and they're actually the ones perpetrating the genocide.
He brings up an important point, and it's that you can't negotiate with Israel, who is perpetrating the genocide. And so, therefore, you have to have arms embargoes. You have to have sanctions against them. You have to boycott all Israeli products. You have to, and you don't negotiate, because you know what? We didn't negotiate with the Nazis during World War II. We didn't negotiate with them until it was negotiating their surrender. Okay? We didn't negotiate with them about, oh, you need to let these people go. You don't need to take Poland, or, we don't need to bring about negotiations for a ceasefire or to protect residents in London or something like that. It was, we are only going to bring about an absolute end to this war, and we will talk terms when you are surrendering. So no one ever asks, no one does mediation or little things like that during the war where they say, and this isn't a war, this is arguably a genocide here. So, Israel is not a party that can be brought to the table. The rest of the world needs to have negotiations and bring about an end to this genocide. And that's where we're at. In just wild, insane Israeli on Israeli crime, a pro-Israel man in Florida has shot 2 tourists that he thought were Palestinian, but it turned out that they were Israeli. The shooter reportedly told police that while he was out driving, he saw 2 Palestinians and shot and killed both. Now, first, the boldness to tell the police that you are committing a crime and tell them why it was a hate crime is going to make prosecution go really quickly. The victims were actually an Israeli father and son on vacation in Miami. They both survived with minor injuries. In a since-deleted post to Facebook, the son appeared to accuse the shooter of anti-Semitism, and he wrote the words, quote, "death to Arabs," unquote. The shooter is Jewish. Yikes. So, this type of speech on social media is pretty wild. Pretty wild. Though the victims were Israeli and not Palestinian, as the shooter believed, the Florida chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, called for a federal hate crime charges to be brought against the shooter, 27-year-old plumber Mordecai Braffman. It is the alleged shooter's reportedly bias-motivated actions, not the actual ethnicity of the victims, that should be the determining factor for charges in this disturbing case, says CAIR of Florida. Hate crimes against Arabs and Muslims have surged in the U.S. since October 7th, 2023. CAIR received 8,061 complaints nationwide in 2023, the highest number of complaints documented in its 30-year history. On October 14, 2023, 6-year-old Palestinian Wadia Al-Fayoumi was killed after his family's landlord stabbed him 26 times. The accused killer allegedly yelled, "You Muslims must die," unquote, while strangling Al-Fayoum's mother. The 71-year-old was charged with 2 counts of hate crimes. It's absolutely insane to me. It's wild to see how brazen they are with the war crimes and the hate crimes that they commit. And I'm not pretending to, believe that there's not a lot of serious anti-Semitism out there, especially with the way the genocide is going right now, and that we have to be ever vigilant against that as well, and that we can't paint all Jews with a broad brush here. But this is clearly the Zionist Israelis that are so psychopathic, and they're so used to the safety net of their country allowing them to create hate crimes and murder people indiscriminately as long as they're not Israeli. But they'll notice that in the United States, we have actual laws here. We have actual laws. Yeah, I think we've covered that issue pretty well here. I want to talk more about boycotts because boycotts are actually going really well. Pro-Palestine supporters began boycotting Starbucks weeks after Israel's war on Gaza began. The CEO of Starbucks has admitted the boycott is hurting their bottom line. And guess what? I'm never going to quit. Even if you quit, I'm never going to quit. Activists called for the boycott after Starbucks sued its employee union over a pro-Palestine tweet. The company claims Starbucks Workers United expressed support for violence by Hamas, is their quote, okay? In January 2025, Starbucks withdrew its lawsuit. But guess what? We're never withdrawing our boycott. Since the boycott began in 2023, Starbucks has laid off thousands of workers in the Middle East, and in Malaysia, at least 50 Starbucks locations have been shut down. Palestinians have been leading a boycott movement against companies that support Israel's occupation for decades. Starbucks isn't on the official boycott, divestment, and sanctions list, but the grassroots campaign began by spreading word of mouth. BDS movement has claimed a number of wins since the genocide in Gaza began. One of the biggest includes Intel halting the construction of a $25 billion factory in Israel. Companies like Intel rarely say their decisions to divest from Israel are motivated by activist pressure, but BDS has been targeting Intel for years. Of course, Intel creates processors and chips that go inside the guidance systems of missiles. Their technology is used in drones and various other surveillance systems to target Palestinians. And of course, Starbucks, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Burger King have all supplied the IDF and shared money, their profits, with Israel in order to continue war crimes. And so just in case you want some others to boycott, you can also boycott Disney and Marvel's latest movie, Captain America, Brave New World, which I have a video about Sabra, the Israeli Zionist superhero, and there's an hour-long video of it on my YouTube channel and on TikTok that you can check out, so definitely look into that. Beyond that, I think I had another thing on, yeah, right here. So, Reebok has announced that it will sponsor the Israel Football Association, and it will face a global boycott. So next on the list is Reebok. Let's go. The IFA's last two partners walked away following worldwide boycotts. Puma pulled out after 5 years of international boycotts. You'd think they'd learn their lesson sooner. Led by the BDS movement, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, bdsmovement.net. August 2024, Italian sportswear brand Area signed a contract with the IFA to replace Puma. It started its sponsorship on January 1st, 2025, but after boycotts, it withdrew from its contract with the IFA in mid-February before it could even provide the teams with jerseys. Reebok has signed a 2-year contract to sponsor the IFA. BDS is demanding Reebok leave the contract or it will also face an international boycott campaign. Reebok has acquiesced to protests over projects involving Israel in the past, so they should know. They should have learned. In 2016, it canceled plans to release a shoe for Israel's Independence Day after receiving backlash. The Israel military killed over 700 Palestinian athletes during its genocide in Gaza. It also repurposed some Palestinian sports facilities as detention camps where Palestinians were tortured. And as you can see in the background, look what they're doing. Those are their version of concentration camps. Now, I want to show you some more drone footage here showing the destruction of Gaza here. I think just the more we can see this reality of what is happening there, and just the scale of the destruction in less than a year. This is from the 16th of February, 2025 in Jabalia, in Gaza. I cut the music because it was kind of trying to be like emotional. We don't really need the emotional value added by music to make you feel sad or sorry or to feel any sort of way. I mean, I think you should be able to look at this footage and really use your main sense here to really see what's going on here and see how cruel and inhumane it is. I mean, and they're adamant that they want to live here and clear the land and live in tents as long as they are allowed to be on their land. You can see the tents there. But I mean, this is the reality of what's been done. And this is going to be, a lot of shame on humanity for allowing this to even happen, even for a single day. But the fact that it's been going on for over a year is just shameful. Now, this next story, this is from the BBC. This story is about an 11-year-old that has helped transport Gaza's dead and injured. Let's listen to what he has to say. This is a child, by the way. So he says he's buried over 5,000 bodies. Seen 5,000 bodies.
Zakaria is 11. He's living on his own at the last permanent hospital in central Gaza.
A lot of injuries, volunteer. Transports living dead and kids. I love helping people, he says. He wants us to treat him like he's one of the paramedics. Whenever I treat him like a child, he gets upset. He helps his family as best as he can, especially his mom. Oh. If anyone gives me money, I buy food for them. He's witnessed scenes no child should see. It's completely changed. He may never fit in with kids his age again. Yeah.
The ceasefire has been announced. For Zakaria, there is new hope, but the future's uncertain.
He wants to go back to his destroyed home, even if it means living in a tent. I mean, they're pretty adamant, like nobody's leaving, and they do not care that they do not have, proper buildings and shelter. They're adamant that they're going to stay on their land. I think that's admirable. I think they should, and I think that's their right. All right, this next one, Israel has killed a pregnant Palestinian woman, and Western media doesn't seem to care about it because they haven't covered it at all. So how many Palestinian women and children have to be killed either in Gaza or the occupied West Bank before anyone cares? So this is a quote from the mother from one of her last posts online. She says, "To my unborn child, with you I will become a mother for the first time. I can't believe how quickly this pregnancy has passed and how you have grown quietly within my womb, waiting for my first joy." This is by Sundus Shalabi, who was 8 months pregnant. On Sunday morning, the 23-year-old Palestinian mother-to-be was killed by the Israeli military in Nur Sham's refugee camp on the outskirts of Tukarim in the occupied West Bank in what the Palestinian Foreign Ministry is calling a crime of execution and the targeting of defenseless civilians. Shalabi and her husband, Yazan Abu Shola, were shot in their car with her husband critically injured. Their unborn child was also killed in the attack. Medical teams were unable to save the baby's life due to Israeli occupation preventing the transfer of the injured to the hospital, in a statement from the Palestinian Health Ministry in Ramallah. It's terrible. It's shameful, and we haven't seen anything from any major news agency across the world. And this just continues to happen. I want to pull up an image of her, just so we can see. Hang on. Right here. So there she is. She managed to get out of the car that caught fire and then was shot 3 times in the chest by Israeli soldiers. That's the world we live in. It allows things like this to happen. Now, I have a few more videos to look at, and this next video is how Donald Trump creates the actual president of America, Benjamin Netanyahu, because we all know that Israel and AIPAC completely owns our country. So while Netanyahu was here on a visit, this is a weird gesture here. I don't know what's going on with the music, but like, have you ever seen anything like so? And I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I've never seen two men with such an admiration for each other. There's such a, it almost seems homoerotic here. Just really wanting to make sure that he got his ass like firmly in that chair so he can just sit there and sign the guest book or whatever's going on here. I don't know, just really weird watching a U.S. president who's supposed to be, masculine and, very strong and powerful, and to, negotiate terms for a potential end to this war, to this genocide that Israel is committing. And yet he's treating him like, you would probably treat someone on a date, whether you're dating a man or a woman. You pull the chair out for them and, allow them to sit there. And I don't think Trump is really one for manners. So it's just such a weird thing. And you would think they have so many aides that could do this for them. But, Trump obviously chose this as an action that he really wanted to take to make sure that Israel views him favorably. I don't know what the music, I don't know why the music is like that. That's so crazy. But that's what we're looking at here. Okay. So let me see. I want to bring this up. Okay. So to kind of wrap up our war crimes coverage for the day, we have various IDF soldiers talking about their war crimes over the years, and I'm going to try my best to read out what they're saying. So he says, I lived with Arabs, did not see anything wrong with what we were doing, so no remorse. If I was told to do things that I do not want to mention, I did them with no doubts at all. So these old men are like laughing and smiling about their war crimes without blinking. My whole worldview regarding what happened in the war changed completely. I saw that this was a deliberate deception of the Zionist movement. Of course we killed them. What? We killed them without remorse. Just like that. Like, why the laughing? If you killed, you did a good thing. During the first 3 months of the war, I was a murderer. I did not take any prisoners. How many prisoners do you think you killed? Shrugs, laughs, I did not count. And then he laughs. How would I know? I had a machine gun with 250 bullets. I shot and killed everyone. I can't count. Antora was a rich village with beautiful houses. Dude's laughing and smiling here, even with his toothless smile. They lived like Europeans. Their women were beautifully dressed. It was a fine village. One of our men raped a 16-year-old girl. The dude is laughing and smiling, dude. like, while he's talking about this, like, things were extremely ugly. We also had a savage youth who died later. He simply shot the prisoners inside enclosures. You have to show, some of us took flamethrowers and chased after the prisoners to burn them. And that was during the 1948 Nakba. We want our enemy not to exist, not to be alive, because they don't have the right to live. Be triumphant and finish them off. Don't leave anyone behind. Erase the memory of them. That's what he's telling the next generation of IDF soldiers. Erase them, their families, mothers, and children. Like, dude, these animals can no longer live. Like, dude, I mean, I'm starting to wonder who was worse, like these Zionists or the Nazis. Like, I mean, this is cruel. This is humanity at its worst. I mean, you just can't negotiate with stuff like that. It's just insane. Now, I want to share just a little bit of coverage here. We've been showing a lot of coverage of Andre X, who has a TikTok and Twitter and all that stuff. He's talking about now how Jenin refugee camp is designated a kill zone now, with 20,000 inhabitants who were forced to leave. This is ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. You can also follow me at AShackPolitics on Twitter or X.
We're in the Jenin refugee camp, which has been turned into a war zone by the Israeli army. Entire lengths of roads are destroyed, entire neighborhoods are leveled. And you can very clearly see that this is just a destruction of civilian infrastructure. There is no military or security purpose to this. This is just an ethnic cleansing. And the army is still inside. You can still hear shots every once in a while.
And this is the West Bank. No Hamas.
What is happening here is fucking insane.
Yep.
This is... Fuck, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this.
I applaud him for his coverage, man. He has been putting himself at risk there, you know, to cover all this stuff. And this is the first time I've seen him wearing the armor, the armored vest with press written on it. So this next one, Israeli soldiers immediately pointed weapons at us when we approached the camp, despite us wearing press vests. And we know that they've targeted press aggressively over the past year. The camp has been cleared, and now the IOF is destroying it.
Behind me is the Nur Shams refugee camp, which is one of the two refugee camps next to Tulkarem, which have been under heavy assaults from the Israeli occupation forces for over 2 weeks now. 90% of the residents have been displaced. The roads have been nearly completely destroyed. Many people have been killed, including a pregnant woman.
Yep, which we covered on the channel here.
We tried to drive in, but we ran into Israeli soldiers who immediately started pointing guns at us, which is kind of the favorite pastime of Israeli soldiers, to point guns at civilians. And that is the other refugee camp.
And that's so real. He's absolutely right about that. So, in a war where there have been record amounts of journalists killed, I mean, it's very courageous to be out there wearing that vest.
Massive assault.
Because it's a target.
The largest operation by the occupation forces in this area ever.
That's very true. So definitely support his work. He's been doing a documentary of what's happening in the West Bank, and I think a lot of his footage that we've shared on the channel, it's been very important in showing you the disparity between how people are treated in Gaza and the West Bank, and just so you can see that there is no such thing as a free Israel. So, once again, everyone, I'd like to thank you for watching and supporting the channel here. Like I said at the top of the show, I've been working really hard to make sure that I'm keeping everyone updated with the news that mainstream media refuses to cover. So once again, I just want to let you know, I have links down in the description. You can follow me on Blue Sky. You can follow me on Twitter or X. And you can also follow us on Substack here, aaronshackpolitics.substack.com. And I just want to make sure that we have that pulled up right here. So once again, I want to thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Follow me on TikTok as well. I've been doing some debates and some live streams and stuff, and I'm trying to get things set up there. But definitely check out the Substack, subscribe to us there, and please know that any support is all entirely from our viewers. And so if you would like to sign up for a subscription there, it helps keep the channel alive and keep things going, and pays for the cost of doing business here. But I want to make sure that I keep everyone informed, and I want to have bigger and larger discussions about Palestine, about American politics, about world politics. And I think some of the opportunities that TikTok gives us to sit down and have those discussions and to sit down and be able to interview people is definitely the next stage of where I want to take this channel. So once again, thank you for watching. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you on the next one.